without having a degree or having the proper education in my 9 to 5 jobs, I realized I had to move horizontally in order to move vertically. So I had to continue to do jumps in order to move up because I didn't have those degrees and the paperwork backing me, even though I knew what I was doing. And I got to a point where I felt like I was capped out. I can only go so far without a degree that you're kind of forced to do your own thing.
What's up, everyone? This is Niyi Adewale, and I am the host of the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group. This group meets every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and the members of this group are committed to achieving financial freedom while we're still young enough to actually enjoy it. So in this podcast, you're going to get VIP access to the conversations that we have about different forms of investment and ways to get your dollars working harder for you than you worked to first acquire those dollars. Marcus, you ready?
Yes, sir.
This week of the Financial Freedom Mastermind Podcast, we are joined by Marcus Mayfield A.K.A. Marcus Makes Millions. And this is a self-proclaimed, the unemployable entrepreneur who has made the journey from W-2 work to full entrepreneur. And he's what I like to call a serial entrepreneur. And we're going to get to dig into his journey today. Marcus, first and foremost, thank you for joining us, man.
Man, I appreciate the invite. This is definitely an honor to be here.
Of course, of course. And every time that we connect and we talk, I always get some nuggets of information, and you always drop some gems that I can implement the next day. And so I'm excited for this group and our audience to really hear your story. And I really want to take it to the beginning, right? Because Absolutely. You weren't always this serial entrepreneur with multiple businesses. What were you doing before you started your first business?
That's a tough one because I felt like I've always had some form of a business, even since being young. In my high school years, I grew up in Savannah with my grandmother, and she didn't have all the finances. So cutting grass, knocking on doors, hey, can I rake your leaves, things like that. And understanding that there was income outside of a 9 to 5 before I was able to get a 9 to 5 because 16 was that age. So I guess 9 to 5 work before would be military. So I have a military background, and you may be able to see that in the background here.
Yeah.
But I have a military background, and I wanted to do Marines, and it was right after 9/11, and my mother was like, absolutely not. I went to the Army recruiter, and the Army recruiter hyped me up and was like, oh, we're going to get you in the medical field. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to give you a $10,000 quick ship bonus, this, that, and the other, and found out I had medical issues. I had a rod in my leg from a car accident. And when I walked out, the Air Force recruiter was there. It was like, oh, didn't make it? And I was like, no, didn't make it. And he was like, I tell you what, you come talk to me. And I was in the military as an aircraft mechanic. So did 4 years as an aircraft mechanic and excelled in that, but never thought that, I thought that would be like my path getting out, always working on planes, but I never degreed in it. I never had an A&P or aerospace and power plant license. So when I got out to the civilian world, they were like, yeah, you worked on planes, but that means nothing without a license. So I was kind of forced to figure out other ways. So getting out of the military, I started over. So it was really a struggle just to start over. And then I started finding little things to make extra money, cutting hair. So I actually went to school for cutting hair. So I used my VA to cut hair, started making money on the side. And I love that income of, okay, on Saturdays, I know I can make $200-300. And I just continued to grow that and figure out ways that I could make money, in a day's time that I wouldn't make on a 9 to 5. And that just grew into what I'm doing now, Airbnbs. That grew into Airbnbs, credit repair industry, and 2 event spaces. So still growing.
Hey, and we're going to dive into all of that. But first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for your service. Not everybody is cut out to go and join the military or the Navy or the Air Force. And, we really appreciate your service, especially at that time after 9/11 when there was so much uncertainty. And one of the things that you mentioned, right, which is kind of crazy to me, is that you were working on airplanes. in the military, in the Air Force, right? These are fighter jets. Nothing can go wrong with this. It has to be, these
Right.
are multi-million-dollar fighter jets. But you come back here and people are like, well, you don't have the certificate or degree. And I think back to the way this country was started, and most countries were, which was through apprenticeship, right? You learned how to
Right.
do the mechanical work. You learned how to do everything by learning from somebody ahead of you. And it's crazy that we've gone away from that to where you have to dish out dollars to get a degree, even though you're still going to need to get that on the site job training to actually know what you're doing.
Right. And that was part of the frustration that I found in a 9 to 5. The military, it's laid out on a platform for you. And the training that I did was called hot training, hands-on training. And it made sense to me of, if I'm going to be a doctor, give me a body to work on and then show me the paperwork. Or if I'm going to work on a plane, show me the plane, show me the part, and then show me the paperwork. That's how my brain process things. Like, I got to see it. You can write it down a million times. If I don't see it, I don't understand what you're saying. So when I got out, getting into a 9 to 5, and it wasn't documented what your next step was. And I started getting frustrated, and there was no plan of action of how you progress. I knew in the military, if I take a test every 2 years, I'm eligible for this upgrade. I'm eligible for this pay raise. I'm eligible for this in this many years. This is the criteria. These are the steps. And I didn't see that in a 9 to 5. So got frustrated. Like, how do I advance? How do I move up? And without having a degree or having the proper education in my 9 to 5 jobs, I realized I had to move horizontally in order to move vertically. So I had to continue to do jumps in order to move up, because I didn't have those degrees and the paperwork backing me, even though I knew what I was doing. And I got to a point where I felt like I was capped out. I can only go so far without a degree, that you're kind of forced to do your own thing.
It's true. It's true. And in line with that, this is part of the reason that I personally decided to get into sales, because I looked at the 9 to 5 route, which is, hey, you get paid X amount per hour, and the more hours you put in, the more you can make. And there's caps to where you can get to. And then I looked at sales where, hey, you may put in a heck of a lot of hours, but it's not proportional to how much you can make, right? And there's
Right.
some days where you don't have to put in as much work and you're still going to get a nice sell. And so I'm with you, man. I think a lot of the members that are a part of this group have that same thinking, like, hey, this 9 to 5, when you start to really look at it over the long run, it's not where I want to be. And so
Right.
you mentioned that it pushed you to start to figure out, like, hey, what can I do outside of this? And what was the first entrepreneurial business that you did after the military? You mentioned the barbershop, but what was one of the other ones that you got into?
I'm going to say the first major one is probably the event space, like a brick and mortar location. I've done smaller things. I've tried just about every MLM, things like that. I wasn't with the team building and recruiting and stuff like that. So it was the event space, and that was credit to my wife. We were about to get married, and we went to a couple of locations, and they didn't treat us right. We're about to spend $20,000, $30,000. And we're like, why are they treating us like this? And we got in the car. My wife was like, oh, we can do this. I'm like, do what? She was like, an event space. I was like, what do you know about an event space? And she was like, nothing. Like, all right. And, I just came into some money, paid off some credit cards. So I had a large chunk of some credit cards that I could use. And I was like, all right, this is our first test. I'm willing to use my credit cards to do it. I don't know how much it costs. You let me know. And she just went heads in and came with all the information. It's going to cost this much. This is the area. This is what I want. So I just followed her footsteps. And being that I've had businesses before, I was like, you know what? I think I can help with the business side if you can just do the legwork. And she did the legwork. We bumped heads here and there, but eventually we found a space and it started making money. And I was like, okay, cool. So still working a 9 to 5, started making money. And within our second year, we opened up a second space. And, not to be mean to anyone, but the barbershop next door to us didn't like us being there, and they closed their doors. So it was almost like a kind of shot in the dark for us to say, you know what, we're taking their space. They didn't want us to be here. We want their space. So we took the space right next door to us, which was the barbershop, and we were able to do that in 2 years. And that second year was 2020. So it was during a pandemic where people couldn't gather. We bought another space for people to gather. But we put systems in place that we were still making money during the pandemic. And it was very hard for us to listen to someone at a 9 to 5 tell us to clock in every day when we were making more money than we were at a 9 to 5 at that time.
And Marcus, this is crazy, man. To expand during a pandemic, that takes a lot of courage, and it takes a vision and a focus. And before we dive into that, I definitely want to hear some details. I know other people do too. Take us back to the first booking that you had with that event space. I can't even imagine, what I would be thinking in my head, and okay, how am I going to make this experience right? What was going through your head, and how did that first booking go when you had that event space?
Well, I tell you, we weren't prepared at all. We were still doing things with pen and paper, and our first booking was free. We wanted people to come in the door. We were like, just come in for free. What event do you have? We'll give you 2 hours, 3 hours for free. And the goal was to give them 2 to 3 hours and to convince them to buy more. So we started making a little bit of money. I was like, okay, they're paying, we're giving them 2 hours, but they're paying for 5. Like, all right, this is pretty good money. And we just had to figure out a way to continue to roll in the inquiries. So once we realized that giving something back to people was the way to get people to give back to you, that was our motto of, you know what, we're going to give away something, whether it's free time, free linen, whatever it was, we were going to give them something in order for them to get into the building and buy more. And we've kind of stuck with that motto throughout all of our business. Give more in order to get something. So we continue that in every business that we have. Give something to get something.
I love that. I love that. It's a different kind of marketing strategy, right? And it's almost more word of mouth and more referral based. Was there
Right.
anything else that you did from a marketing standpoint to keep that event space booked up, the first one that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram and Google were our number one tools. So one of the things that we would do, and what we started learning, was that people always want more than what you give them. So anytime we gave more, once we established ourselves on Google, we would ask for a review immediately. Before you have your event, hey, can I have an extra hour, but I don't want to pay for it? I tell you what, you go ahead and leave me a 5-star review and I'll give you an hour. And we would watch them do it on the spot. So as a new business, we realized that within a year or 2 years in, we had more reviews in the businesses that were in the area, other event spaces that have been established for 5 or 6 years, because we had more reviews. So when you type in our space in our city, we were the first ones to pop up. So we built a social presence just based off of, once again, giving people something, but we need a review in exchange. So when we got the review and exchange, that organic traffic started to grow. And then we started not getting those repeat clients, but starting getting new clients based on those online referrals or online reviews. And the trick behind that was they were excited to give us a 5-star at that particular time, that it's kind of hard for them to have a bad experience and go back and change their reviews. So even if they had a bad experience or something went wrong, they've already left us a 5-star review.
And
So
Marcus, this is why I love our conversations, man, because literally every time you drop dimes, man, I'm thinking like, hold up, how many people in my Airbnb business have asked, hey, can I check out later? Or can I do an early check-in? Sure. 5-star, right? This
it
is
doesn't cost you a dime. It
not
doesn't
at
cost you
all.
anything.
Not at all, man. This is yeah, I'm definitely taking notes here and learning. Okay. And now moving on to the pandemic. You mentioned that you
Right.
expanded during a pandemic. It's early 2020. Nobody knows what's going on. All the cities are shutting down. How did you navigate that? What made you think, hey, I'm going to move forward and buy this second space? And what did it look like during the pandemic with these 2 event spaces?
Well, so what we did, we had a system in place that allowed people to make payment arrangements on their bookings. No one, for major events like weddings and things like that, no one wanted to cancel. So we made it almost too easy for you to book with us that the next payment, I'm basically going to tell you the whole thing. So our idea was, we're going to charge people $200 to book the space, but then your balance, we're going to break those up over time. It's easy for someone to make a $200 decision versus making a $2,000 decision. Your balance is still $2,000, but we only require you to put down 200, which is your security deposit. So we had so many people put down the $200 security deposit that over the months, we had payments still rolling in during the pandemic, because their event let's say the pandemic hit in March was when everything kind of shut down, and your event wasn't until October. You still had payments you had to make until October. So no one knew what the future held going into October, that you continue to make your payments and hope that things will get better. So even though we weren't hosting events, paying for employees because the doors were still closed, we were still making money. So we continue with, to this day, $200 security deposit, but your next payment may be due next week or the week after next. We would find out when your paychecks come in, or however you get paid, if it's weekly or bi-weekly, your next payment is scheduled in a schedule based on when you get paid. So a majority of our payments come in on Friday, usually bi-weekly. So every month on Friday is our payday. When you get paid, we get paid. And we will put people on auto pay. So money was still rolling in during the pandemic.
And you're literally working with human nature, right? Which is, hey, if you tell me I got to put 50% of it up front right now, I'm really got to think about that. Hey, is everything scheduled? You know, is everybody going to come out? It's almost like how you do, like with your cancellation policies for hotels. If the hotel tells you, hey, you can cancel up to 48 hours before you get there, I can book the hotel. But if they tell me, hey, if you book this, there's no cancellation, the money's not coming back, I got to think about it. I might book it closer to the time. That's incredible.
Right. And we did get cancellations, but in our contract, your initial deposit and your security deposit is non-refundable. So once again, it's easy for someone to make a $200 cancellation and say, you know what, keep the money, we're going to cancel our event. It's a free $200 for us, and we can still book that date to someone else.
That's crazy.
You know, it was kind of a protection for us, and it was an easy decision for other people to just make $200 deposits. So $200 deposit next week may be a $500 payment arrangement, 600, 700. And when you have 6 or 7 people making $500 payment arrangements, it makes a difference. So we were able to stay alive and expand during the pandemic based on those numbers.
Okay. Well, I like it. And now you got me thinking about event spaces. I kind of get the shiny object syndrome, right? I'm like, okay, Airbnbs, but when you talk about event spaces and the dollars that are coming in, I start looking that way too.
And it's same concept. You're selling space.
True. And so what was the next entrepreneurial venture that you ventured in? You started with the 2 event spaces. Did you go to Airbnb next after that?
Airbnbs and rental cars at the same time. I was totally against Airbnbs. My wife wanted to do it, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. It didn't make sense to go buy a $2,000 apartment and rent it out for $100 a night. I'm like, you have to be booked 30 nights to make a profit. It doesn't make sense. And she did it anyway. And so out of spite, I wanted to start a rental car company. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go. So I went and bought a 2014 Chevy Cruze. And I haven't seen that Chevy Cruze since. But I bought a Chevy Cruze kind of out of spite. Like, you know what? You did this without really consulting with me, or I didn't agree with it, which was a great decision in the long run. But I did the rental cars, and it was not such a great decision because it's a moving object that carries a lot of liability. So we did the Airbnbs and the rental cars at the same time, and the Airbnbs has been our most lucrative outside of the event space so far.
Okay. And I'm seeing a reoccurring theme here. Wife says, hey, let's go do this. Marcus is like, I don't know. You get into it, all of a sudden the dollars start pouring in, man. This is it's a powerful duo, duo. And so and I'm interested in the Airbnb piece, right? So you mentioned that you're doing kind of the apartments, which is known as rental arbitrage, right? Where you sign a lease with an apartment and then you are able to rent it out on Airbnb. Have you had any issues with property managers or other tenants or anything like that? How do you avoid that?
Yes. So in the beginning, we heard the same information as everybody.
Go ahead.
So in the beginning, we heard the same information as everybody else. Oh, just go get a place, rent it out. And so we call the apartments. Hey, we're trying to do Airbnb. What's the deal? No Airbnbs, no Airbnbs. Between me and my wife, we probably called 150 places in Atlanta. And we realized that no place allows it really in Atlanta, but we kept hearing the term Airbnb friendly. Like, what is that? What do people mean when they say Airbnb friendly? And there were certain metrics that people would basically go around and find these apartments that not necessarily allowed you to do it, but it was kind of like the old military policy: don't ask, don't tell. If you're doing it, we're not going to ask you. If you don't tell us about it, we don't care. So we found a couple of different criterias that fit what we were looking for. And we still have our very first Airbnb unit. Never had any issues. And they actually told us no at first. And my wife did a rant online in an Airbnb group, and the apartment manager was in the group and wrote her and basically said, hey, look, here's the deal. This is what you need to do. We're going to allow you guys to do it in your personal name. After a year, I'll let you put it in your business name. But if we get any headaches, any problems, we're not going to allow you guys to renew. And she actually gave us our first tip and said, don't change the lock. You need to use August lock. August lock only shows on the back side, but not on the front side. She said, as long as you do that and the tenants don't bother me or have any issues, she was like, no ring cameras, no peepholes, none of that stuff. If you can do the August lock and go under the radar with no issues, you're good. So that kind of trained us on how to fly under the radar or what to look for. And we've expanded to 2 more apartments since then. So no
Nice.
issues as of yet.
Hey, come on now. And I like how you put the as of yet, because it's almost foreshadowing. For
Right.
those who don't know, Atlanta just released some new short-term rental ordinances, and they're making it a little more difficult to own a short-term rental here in Atlanta. Marcus, I don't know if you've seen those yet. Have you seen some of the new rules that came out?
Yes, I've seen some of the new rules, but I can't say I truly understand them. I know you do have to have a license, or moving forward, you'll have to have a license in order to operate short-term rentals. And that's something I do want to dig into a little bit deeper and make sure I'm prepared for when that does come.
Absolutely. And this is something I'm going to be in lockstep with you. Definitely a lot of offline conversations, because we both got to figure this thing out, because I
Right.
do own some short-term rentals in Atlanta. And just for those listening and any new investors that are like, hey, I'm going to do this Airbnb because I'm going to get a lot of money coming in, make sure that you research your city's laws. Airbnb is still relatively new, and cities are still coming out with ways that they can, one, make money off of it, but two, regulate it so it's not like the wild, wild west out here. And so Atlanta is one of those markets that just released some rules to make sure, they can kind of keep that under wraps as well. And so we're still working through that piece. Now, you mentioned the car rentals as well.
Yes.
And I've heard so many people talk about Turo, and I actually heard about another one called Get Around.
Yep.
Can
Yep.
you talk about your experience with the car rentals and how that's worked for you?
Yeah. So I enjoy the car rentals because it's another form of passive income. I make money off of Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, DoorDash drivers. I buy economy cars, or I used to buy economy cars. I realize that it's a moving asset. There's a lot of liability with it. So I'm at 3 cars, and I'm kind of staying at 3 cars. I don't want to expand that business, but I will buy economy cars, anything from 2012 and better. I wanted the Corollas, the Camrys. I didn't want the Turo cars. So I've never listed on Turo. I couldn't tell you anything about Turo. I used to list on what's called Hire Car. Hire Car is a platform used for Lyft drivers, Uber drivers who want to um, rent a vehicle to drive Lyft or Uber. So it has to fit within the Lyft or Uber guidelines. So I would purchase at the very, very bare minimum of those guidelines. If they needed a 2012, I would get a 2013. And I would try to purchase it with 200,000 miles on it, spend a couple $1,000s, and let them run into the dirt. But on average, I make about $35 a day per car. So I have 3 cars, averaging about $35 a day. So I make about $100 a day on. I have a Hyundai Elantra currently in the shop, 2014 Chevy Cruze, and a 2017 Hyundai Sonata. So an Elantra Sonata and a Cruze. And what I realized off of that $35 a day that I was making through Hire Car, the actual driver was paying $60 a day, $70 a day, and they would rent these vehicles out for 2 to 3 months. And once I got a consistent driver, I would contact them and say, "Hey, would you like to come off of the app and drive with me directly, because hire cars insurance policies were a little sketchy. I was still liable. So if they weren't really covering me, I decided just to cover myself. So I didn't change anything on my insurance policy, but I would go and reach out to the driver directly and say, hey, do you want to drive directly through me without going through the app? I would add my trackers and kill switches to the vehicle and allow them to drive for me for $45 to $50 a day. I'm saving them $10. I'm making 10 more bucks. So I would average anywhere from 300 to 325 a week on one vehicle. And like I said, I have a 2014 Chevy Cruze that I bought last year. And actually, that's one of the first cars that I actually financed. I still have my paperwork here, but I haven't seen that car since I financed it. The girl has had the car for 6-8 months now, and she consistently pays me $315 a week on one vehicle. I haven't seen it. I don't know what's going on with it. I have the trackers on it so I can tell where she's at, but she calls me every now and again. She's had one fender bender in it, and she was actually paid out for the fender bender. It wasn't anything I needed to call my insurance for, but she called some type of, after accident attorney and got some money. So it's been a great ride, but it's a lot of liability that I don't want to increase that business.
Agreed. I hear you, especially when you have these other businesses running in parallel and you start to look at the returns on each. Hey, which one's going to give you the best bang for your buck and the least liability? The one that's not moving every day. But I love what you did here because it's relatable to other businesses, right? And I keep going back to the Airbnb piece because that's kind of on my mind right now. But the same thing that you did, which was reaching out to the driver after you had somebody consistent, is what I've been doing as well from a short-term rental perspective. So anytime somebody stays in one of my short-term rentals, there's a card that's there that has a QR code. And when they scan it, it shows all the listings and the direct website for it. So I actually have somebody coming back for the third time, and this is the second time they're booking direct. And cost-wise, this person, if they book through the app, Airbnb, they would be paying $800 for like a 3-night stay. But booking direct with me, they're paying about $600. I'm making more because I was going to make about like $450 on that 800. So I'm making 600. They're saving money. They're happy with it. Okay. And I only do it, to your point, with people that have proven themselves while I had the liability protection and they have great ratings. And then if I see, okay, they were great on Airbnb, let me move them to direct if possible. So that's happened with 2 people so far.
That's a new tip for me. I will be adding that.
Hey, come on now. Iron sharpens iron, man. Moving over to the other business. So we've talked about the weekly car rentals. We've talked about the event spaces. We've talked about the rental arbitrage Airbnbs. Now, what about the credit repair? This one kind of came out of nowhere, man. How did you get into credit repair?
So I started the credit repair as a company recently, but I would say within the last year. But I was always into credit repair and fixing my credit. I've messed up my credit multiple times, and I would repair something on my credit and then tell someone like, yeah, I got that pulled off. And can you do that for me? Like, yeah, sure. All you got to do is this and that and the other. And as I continued to just talk to people and do it for other people, they would share the news. And I was like, I should just make a business out of this. And I realized a lot of the people that I follow on Instagram and Facebook came from the credit industry. So I was like, you know what, let me get some education on this and figure out how I can start a company. So my company is registered in Florida because of Georgia laws. So I'm registered in Florida so I can take an upfront fee. Georgia does not allow you to do that. But I started doing that just based on word of mouth and the knowledge that I had. And it kind of forced me to gain more knowledge, because once someone pays you for it, you're responsible for them. So I was like, you know what? I want to make sure I may have been lucky when I did it for me or someone else. Let me make sure I know what I'm doing. So I continue to educate myself, follow people, and pay for classes, pay for mentorship and things like that to grow that business. And that's something that I really don't market because it's word of mouth. I do something for someone, they'll share it with someone else. And I've truly been growing just off of word of mouth.
And that's incredible. It's truly the key. And I want everybody to listen up to what he said, right? So it was a pain point for him that he was solving. Hey, I got to get this off my report. so I can go and work and get financing for this. Hey, I got to get this off my report so it doesn't ding my credit. And enough people came to you to ask about that you're like, hey, this could be a business. And the key to any business is just being able to solve someone's problems, right? And so similar to you, even in my space, last year I got my realtor license. And the reason I got it is because one, I love talking about real estate, but two, I would talk to everybody like all day, every day about real estate and not be able to help them like physically, like, hey, you should go check out these agents, et cetera. And then an agent would ghost somebody and they'd come back to me and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know that was going to happen. Right.
Right.
So I got mine so I can help control that. And also even these Wednesday meetings, if it wasn't for this scheduled call, right, on Wednesdays, I'd still be talking real estate just at random times during the day. And it'd be hard to get work done. So I was like, all right, let's just standardize this. Everybody come on board. Let's talk about this and other investments. And it's been incredible over the last year meeting you and other individuals as well. But Marcus, your story is incredible, man. And I want to dig into a couple things before we go ahead and open it up to the group. First and foremost, right, there's a quote that I've heard you say before that I want to dig into and understand what you meant by it. You said sometimes getting in the room requires you to start at the bottom. What does that mean?
Well, that means if we met through me doing handyman service for you. When I quit my job, I had these other avenues of income or quit my 9 to 5, but I was truly scared of what if another pandemic hits and the event spaces slow down, or I can't book the Airbnbs, or someone wrecks one of my vehicles. What do I do? How do I make it? So I told my wife, like, do you trust me? And she was like, babe, I trust you. And I was like, I'm quitting. And she was like, hold on. So I stayed a little bit longer at my job. And one day I just got fed up. I was asked to do something while I was doing something. And the other guys were sitting down. And I was like, you know what? I quit. I'm done. No plan, no nothing. And I picked up handyman work because I was good with my hands, but I was very selective on who I did handyman work for. I knew that I wanted to grow the Airbnb business. And I was like, how do I get into the game or get more information when I don't want to spend the money that I have because I don't know how things are going to pan out without a job. So I was like, I have to just get in the room. How do I get in the room? I got to get in the room with my skills. So I know if I can service Airbnb owners, I can probably get a little bit of information from this person, then service another Airbnb owner, get a little bit of information from this person. So I really started from the bottom just to get in the room. And a lot of people didn't know, oh, you own businesses. Like, yeah, I'm a business owner. Yes, I used to work a 9 to 5. I'm prior military. Like I'm not your average. I'm no idiot. I'm not just doing this because I have no other means. I have a goal. I have a goal in mind. I really want to learn this information. So I worked for an individual who shared a lot of information to me, who actually introduced me to you through a Facebook post. So I was introduced to a lot of Airbnb individuals through serving, starting at the bottom, literally cleaning toilets or fixing toilets and fixing plumbing and things like that, just to get the information that I needed to grow my business. And my second space or my second Airbnb was in a location that I was servicing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is an apartment. I didn't know you can do this in apartments. So that really expanded my knowledge on getting into Airbnbs with apartments, was literally servicing toilets, painting walls, scrubbing floors, just to get in the room to figure out what's going on in here. So I stick by that motto. And I have a friend now who I partner with on an Airbnb, and I want to give him a shout out. His Instagram is Brandon Shot Me. He literally gave me a $25,000 credit card and said, go find me one. And just being in the room with him and his wife, Entrepreneur Wives on Instagram, his wife, Michelle, was like, just stay in the room, stay in the room. And I didn't understand what she meant by that. She was like, just stay in the room. And then opportunities started coming just by being around individuals and staying in the room with the people who knew more than I did, or knew shortcuts, or knew better routes than I did. So I've been able to increase what I've been doing and excel a lot faster just by serving other people or starting at the bottom. So get in the room, get in the room.
Powerful, man. Powerful. And A lot of people are going to see where you are today and all the businesses that you have up and running and think, oh man, this just all fell into his lap. But when you tell your story about literally being willing to hustle and grind, as an entrepreneur to get into the room and make those connections, it all makes sense. It all
And
makes
if
sense.
I want to, if I can, I know this limited
Please.
time, but I want to give a quick story on. I actually reached out to Brandon. He was looking for an assistant, and I was following Brandon. Used to shoot music videos back in the day for some friends of mine, and I've just seen his growth. And he asked for an assistant one day, and I was like, "Hey, Brandon, let me be your assistant. I don't have a job at this point. I have free time." And he was like, I don't think you're assistant material. I don't think that's going to work for you, but I have some other things in mind for you. Let's just meet up. And he had an event that weekend. He did a conference, a 3-day conference. And he was like, hey, can you come to the conference? And he kind of set me up. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I called him, hey, I'm on the way to the conference. He was like, all right, great. Stop by the store, pick this up, pick that up. Okay, all right. So I picked up some wings, picked up some pizza, and when I showed up there, he was like, hey, do you mind running to go grab lunch for these people? Okay. Oh, I forgot to tell you, he wanted lunch too. Can you grab? And he was literally running me around the entire weekend. Didn't pay me a dime. And I didn't care because the people that he had in the room were the people who I was following on Instagram that had these $1 million businesses. And I was like, I just got to be here. And he didn't pay me a dime for a 3-day weekend. And I was running and grabbing lunch, cleaning up trash, taking out trash. And that same guy was the same guy who gave me a $25,000 credit card and was like, go find me one, and never questioned anything. And he was like, what is your time worth? Pay yourself. I was like, okay. And just being around him has allowed me to be introduced to other individuals. But he literally, the first time I met him, didn't pay me a dime. One lady felt bad for me, and I'm actually working with her on a couple more events, but felt bad for me and gave me some gas money. So just being around him, and I think he did that on purpose to see, like, do you really, are you really just being around just to be around? You being an extra, are you really wanting to serve? And he made me serve that weekend, and I did more than I think he was expecting. And he put me in some rooms with some real powerful people, and he continues to mentor me and help me out. So I definitely want to give credit to him.
Marcus, that's dope. And a lot of people would have complained. A lot of people would have walked away and said, hey, made up a whole issue right at the event. But the fact that you remained humble, went out there, did it because, hey, I really want to get into this room and understand this business. I think it's led to a lot of the success that you have today. And I want to open it up to the rest of the group. We've covered a lot. Any questions for Marcus?
Hey, so how's it going? My name is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So, hey, my name is Monica Soyemi. Actually, I am a real estate agent and a real estate investor here in New York City. And I wanted to ask everyone's opinion in the room. I'm not sure where everyone is from, but, I know you're speaking to me about the new changes happening for Atlanta and Airbnbs and things like that. So, like, how do you think that you're going to like kind of tackle this new found information? And then also too, Marcus, for you with a lot of your clients and credit repair, what are some of the main things that you're kind of, I guess, helping clients with, or I guess you could say specialty?
Right.
That's it.
I guess, Nee, I'll let you go first with the first question.
Yeah, so it's going to be day by day, right? With this, they're still trying to figure it out as a city. The ordinance literally just came out within a week. And so we're all trying to figure it out, get items submitted. And it's going to be a day by day thing. But I think whoever's able to make it through this is going to truly benefit from so much demand, right? Because there's going to be a lot of people that aren't serious, or a lot of people that are hosting party houses that get weeded out during this process. But Marcus, over to you for the credit piece.
As far as the credit piece, I think my specialty is collections. A lot of collection companies don't follow the rules, and the average consumer doesn't understand that. The multiple calls a day is a violation. There's a lot of violations that they do. If you don't know, then you don't there's nothing you can do about it, but the more knowledgeable you are, the easier it is to attack these things. So for me, collections are probably the easiest thing to remove, but it's a continuing education for me. So I learned something different, but every piece of credit is almost a different education. So late payments, different education, bankruptcies, different education, collections, different education. So there's so many different parts of it, but I think my specialty would be collections.
All right, cool. Thank you both.
Of course. Any other questions for Marcus? Okay, Marcus, I got a question for you. So there's a project that you mentioned that's coming up. It's called the Time Freedom Summit. What is that?
Yes, I'm glad. I know we don't have much time, but Kenn Collier, who I was introduced by through Brandon, and I was introduced through Kenn. The lady I'm working with, her name is Panique. I'm working with her to put on his conference. He is an African American in Atlanta who has one of the largest VA companies in the world. So he's teaching people how to scale their businesses with virtual assistants. So he's putting on a conference called the Time Freedom Summit this coming March 11th, 12th, and 13th. Tickets are very low cost. If you guys can look him up, Kenn Collier. He's going to be giving out some amazing information on how he pays $300 to $400 for a VA a month for a full-time VA with college degrees to run his businesses, and how he's able to scale multiple different businesses by paying $300 to $400 a month to these VAs. And he's created a company where he can basically manage the HR side for you, the insurance for you, the payroll for you, and the VA for you. So if they don't work out, he can hire and fire for you. And he's doing a conference March 11th, 12th, and 13th. On Instagram, he is Kenn_Collier or Kenn Collier. And that's an event that me and another individual named Panique are heading to put together for him. And he actually owns an event space. So I do a lot of work with him on his event space. So I've been put in a lot of rooms just by being introduced to Brandon and Michelle. So
That's dope. That's dope. I know that'll be a cool event. And while we still have a minute or two, I do want to ask, how can this group and the greater audience that's going to hear this when it does get released, how can we help you out in any of your businesses, Marcus? All right. And that was the episode with the Mastermind Group. I hope that you found value in that. If you did, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe or follow this podcast so that you can get updates whenever we release an episode, which is every Wednesday. We truly appreciate the support. I hope all of you have an awesome week. Crush it. And we'll see you here next week.